I didn't really clock how far off I was until I tried to explain it to someone else. Because in my head, I can still carry this version of myself. Like I am all right. Like I am moving forward. Like I am living with direction and structure and something solid underneath me. But when I actually say it out loud, it doesn't line up. I'm all over the place. And I keep trying to hold on to this idea that I am someone who is positive, someone who is grounded, someone who's got a strong outlook on things. But if I'm honest, that's not what is actually happening. The reality is, I feel fucked up. Not necessarily in a visible way, although sometimes very much in a visible way. Everything isn't necessarily falling apart on the outside, but internally, there's no real center. It's like everything gets in. The smallest things, noise, people, little bits of friction that shouldn't even matter that much, but they do, and they stick. They get in and they stay there. And then I'm having to regulate myself again, trying to settle myself again, trying to get back to some sort of baseline that doesn't feel stable in the first place. And it's constant. That's probably the best way to describe it. Constant and completely exhausting. And at the same time, I've seen what the opposite looks like. I've seen people who are just steady, consistent, unwavering, not pretending or suppressing any parts of themselves, just genuinely not getting thrown off by everything around them like I am. People who don't react to every little thing. People who don't get agitated by noise or by pressure or by situations. They just stay where they are internally, regardless of the external changes. And when I see that, it almost doesn't make sense to me because I can recognize it. I can respect it. I can see how valuable that is. But I can't actually access it for any long period of time. Right now, I'm in the complete opposite of that. And I know I am. And there's no getting away from that. And that's where the tension comes from. Because I can see exactly who I'm trying to become. And I'm not him. I'm far from him. And in that difference, in that gap, in that gulf, in that chasm, pain is there. And frustration is there. And life doesn't pause whilst you are figuring that out. There are people around me going through real things, not surface level stuff, real life shifts, losing people and losing structure and losing their whole identities. And I'm there in that as well, trying to support that, trying to support myself, trying to be someone who can actually hold something steady for us as a collective, as a together. But at the same time, I'm not steady within myself. And that creates this weird split because I want to be there properly. I want to be someone who can actually support, who can actually show up in a solid, steadfast, grounded way. But I can feel my own bandwidth is limited because I'm going through my own processes at the same time. So I'm there, but it's partial, and I know that. And that's another one of the gulfs and chasms, and it just doesn't feel good either. There's also things closer to home that just don't disappear either. Family stuff, family dynamics that have been there for years. A tough environment that shapes how you respond to things, where someone can be strong in a way that is almost rigid, and you grow up around that and it builds something within you. And you can understand it. You can see why it's there and why it had to happen. But it doesn't mean it doesn't create friction. It does. And that stuff doesn't just switch off because you've got an awareness of it. It's still there, regardless. And all of that just feeds into this wider feeling that I'm in something, like properly in it, so far deep. And it's not new either. And it's been going for a while. Sometimes it quiets down and I can step back from it a bit. I can see it just as a state, just something passing through. But other times I'm right inside of it, struggling, drowning. And when you're inside of it like that, it doesn't feel like a state. It feels like reality. Like this is just how things are now. Heavy and unclear and confusing. And like nothing's really landing. Like you're just kind of underneath it constantly. And in those moments, there's a real pull to just check out, to distract, to numb it, to disassociate, to not look at it directly, to just bury my head and pretend it's not there. And I can feel that instinct clearly. It's there. But I also know exactly what that is. That's avoidance. That's the easiest move available. That's just like when I was a drug addict. And it doesn't solve anything. It just pushes it further down the road. And the longer you stay like that, the more disconnected you become from anything real. So even when I am in it, even when I don't feel clear, even when I don't feel strong, there's still something in me that refuses to go fully into that place, because I don't want to be someone who avoids their own life. But at the same time, I'm not handling it cleanly either, not even close. And then there's another layer to it, which is just the reality that no one is coming to fix this. And no one really cares in the way that sometimes I think that they might or they should. Not because people don't care at all, but because everyone is dealing with their own stuff. Everyone's got their own problems, their own weight. Some people more, some people less. But no one is immune to it. So that idea that someone's going to come in and stabilize things for you, for me, it's not real and it's false hope. They've got their own things to deal with. So it always comes back to you. Whether you are ready for that or not is irrelevant. That is the reality. And I think that's why I keep coming back to this idea of who I'm trying to become. Because I know for a fact that I do not want to stay like this. And I can't stay like this. I don't want to be reactive all the time. I don't want to be someone who gets thrown off by everything. I don't want to be unreliable. I don't want to be someone who talks about things endlessly, but isn't actually living them with integrity and honor. I want to be solid, and I want to be grounded, and I want to be someone people can actually depend upon. Someone who lives with integrity. But the truth is, I'm not there yet, and I'm not going to pretend I am. I am still in the middle of it, and more often than not, I'm sinking rather than swimming. And that's incredibly uncomfortable because there is nowhere to hide. There's no version of this where I can dress it up and make it look like something else. And if I'm honest, I'm not fully walking what I talk about. And that's part of why this even matters, because I'm tired of pretending otherwise. And yet, somehow I have to talk about it. Somehow I have to try to embody it so that I can potentially one day become that person. I can one day walk with those values in such a way where there isn't such a chasm and a gap between where I am now and where I actually want to be and who I want to become. There's this simple image that keeps coming back to me as well, like stepping out of the house to go somewhere with a clear reason for leaving. You know where you're going. You know why you stepped out in the first place. And then you're on your way and a dog starts barking, or kids are shouting, or something just pulls your attention away. Something irritates you, something distracts you, something charges you up with anger. And before you know it, you've completely forgotten why you left the house in the first place. That's exactly what this feels like. Like I had direction, and somewhere along the way, I got pulled into something else, into everything else, and I lost it. And now I'm trying to remember what I was actually doing, trying to come back to that in and amongst all of these things going on around me. And at the same time, I'm just trying to keep moving, because it's not even about motivation at this point. It's so much more basic than that. It's about survival, about continuing, just not stopping, even if it's messy, even if it's inconsistent, even if it doesn't look how it's supposed to look or how I feel it should look. And there's a part of me which is still waiting for that point where I can actually feel it, where I can look back and say, wow, that was actually worth it. Because right now, it doesn't feel like that at all. Right now, it feels like being consumed by it, being drowned by it, not above it, under it, pinned down by it. And I'm waiting for that shift. And I'm aware that it hasn't happened yet. And I don't know exactly when it will or when it does. But I know I don't want to avoid this. And I don't want to disappear from it, because to me, that isn't strength. That is just repeating the same old cycles of addiction and abuse and distancing and burying my head in the ground, which I don't want to do anymore. I remember looking back at me being 20 years old and wishing that I just looked at all my stuff, wishing that I faced all my stuff, wishing that I did the work I'm doing now then. And however hard this is, however difficult this is, I hope when I'm 40, I look back and I thank myself for doing this. Because really, there's no other way for me to become the man I know I can be, know I am, but who right now I'm not actually embodying. Real strength isn't clean. It doesn't look how people imagine it. It comes from going through things that shake you in ways that you don't think you could even recover from dealing with your own mind when it turns on you, and being able to stay there, not checking out and not running away and not pretending and not falsely being positive about it, just staying. And I think that is really what actually matters. Not some perfect version of a man who's got everything figured out, of a man who has all the awareness, but someone who's actually been through something and didn't run. Because the world doesn't need more surface level strength. It doesn't need more people pretending they are fine and living their lives behind false promises and productivity hacks. It needs people who have actually faced something real and come through it with something solid. No more imaginary strength, just real strength, which is earned. And I feel like at some level, that is what it means to be a superhero, not something out of these Marvel movies or comic books. Someone who has faced chaos and destruction and adversity and has somehow, against all odds, rebuilt themselves up from that place. And I'm not special in that I am the only one on this planet, 8 billion plus of us. Everyone at some level is doing this, but how many people succeed? How many people commit to this with all of their mind and all of their heart and all of their soul, compared to how many people have distracted themselves, have ran from themselves? Because I have done that for most of my life, and it's only recently that I'm starting to do the former. And I don't know if I'm there yet. It feels like I'm so far from that. And honestly, I don't think that I'm anywhere close. but I know this is the direction. And for now, this is where I'm at. I'm in the middle of it. I'm not above it. I'm not past it. I am in it. Still trying to hold the line. Still trying to not give up. Still trying to become someone who can actually stand in this without just collapsing and without falling into the spineless place from which I came. And that's the truth. And I can just continue one step at a time, even though I feel so far from where I know I can be.